Make no mistake, chums, Prince Harry knows exactly just how far he has fallen, all thanks to that recent visit, very successful visit to the United States of America by real royals. And remember, of course, this just comes on the couple of days beforehand where Harry very dramatically announced to the rest of the world that, he was born a royal, he was doing what he was always born to do.
What line refuses to be crossed no matter the pressure? Prince Harry is standing firm, making it clear he won't back down, even as the tension around him keeps rising. Every move now carries weight, and what he's choosing not to do is raising even more questions. As the situation intensifies, one thing is certain: this standoff is far from over, and the next move could change everything. The situation surrounding Prince Harry has reached a point where contradictions are no longer subtle. They are central to how his public image is perceived. Over the past few years, Harry has attempted to reshape his identity multiple times, from senior working royal to independent global figure, from critic of the monarchy to someone now suggesting he was born to serve in that same system. The problem is not reinvention itself. Many public figures evolve, but the lack of consistency in the narrative. When statements made today directly clash with widely broadcast interviews, such as the one with Oprah Winfrey, it becomes difficult for audiences to reconcile which version is genuine. In that now famous interview, Harry described royal life as restrictive, even describing himself as trapped. That moment carried enormous weight because it was framed as a deeply personal truth, shared at a time when he and Meghan Markle were redefining their roles outside the monarchy. Yet fast forward to more recent appearances and the tone has shifted. The language of duty has returned. The framing of identity has changed. He now leans into the idea that royal service is intrinsic to who he is, something he was always meant to do. The tension between these two positions is not minor. It strikes at the core of credibility. This is where public perception becomes critical. Audiences are not just passive observers. They remember. When someone reverses a major stance without clearly explaining the transcripts ideon, it creates skepticism. It gives the impression that narratives are being adjusted based on circumstance rather than conviction. In Harry's case, critics argue that this shift is tied to relevance. When royal connections benefit him, the identity is embraced. When they become restrictive, they are criticized. Whether that interpretation is fair or not, it is gaining traction because the messaging lacks clarity. The role of media strategy cannot be ignored here. Harry and Meghan have repeatedly expressed distrust of traditional tabloids, yet at the same time, information attributed to sources close to the couple continues to appear in outlets like Us Weekly and People magazine. This creates another layer of contradiction. If the media ecosystem is fundamentally flawed or hostile, why engage with it selectively? The answer likely lies in control. These platforms allow for narrative shaping without direct accountability. Statements can be floated, tested, and reframed without the pressure of live questioning. This contrasts sharply with traditional journalism, where interviews are less controlled. As has been widely discussed, many of Harry's recent appearances have involved pre-agreed questions or carefully managed environments. This is not unusual for high-profile figures, but it becomes noticeable when difficult topics, such as his memoir Spare, are consistently avoided. The book itself was one of the most revealing royal publications in modern history, filled with personal anecdotes, controversial claims, and deeply emotional reflections. At the time of its release, it was positioned as a definitive account, his truth, in his own words. Now, however, there appears to be a deliberate distancing from that narrative. Reports suggest that Harry is reluctant to revisit the book in interviews. The reasons are not officially confirmed, but several possibilities stand out. First, the legal scrutiny surrounding some of the claims may have created caution. Publishing allegations requires evidence, and while a memoir allows for personal perspective, it does not shield against challenges if statements are contested. Second, the public reaction to certain revelations, particularly those involving family members, was more divisive than perhaps anticipated. What was intended as honesty was, in some quarters, seen as oversharing or even betrayal. There is also the issue of permanence. Once something is published, it cannot be easily undone. Unlike a statement that can be clarified or a comment that can be reinterpreted, a book exists as a fixed record. Attempts to move away from it without acknowledging its content can feel like an attempt to rewrite history. And in the digital age, where interviews, clips, and quotes are instantly accessible, that becomes nearly impossible. Another factor influencing this entire situation is the contrast between Harry's trajectory and that of Prince William. While Harry has pursued independence, William has remained firmly within the structure of the monarchy, gradually taking on more responsibility. His role has expanded significantly, especially as King Charles III manages health challenges and a demanding schedule. This has positioned William not just as the future king, but as a present leader within the institution. That difference in approach is becoming increasingly visible. William's public image is built on consistency, restraint, and long-term planning. He rarely deviates from established messaging, and when he does speak, it is usually aligned with broader institutional goals. Harry, on the other hand, has adopted a more personal and reactive style. His public appearances often center on individual perspective rather than collective responsibility. Neither approach is inherently right or wrong, but the contrast highlights why their paths have diverged so dramatically. The United States visit by senior royals further emphasized this divide. It showcased what the monarchy looks like when operating at full capacity, coordinated, disciplined, and focused on diplomacy. Against that backdrop, Harry's separate activities, whether in Ukraine or through media appearances, inevitably invite comparison, and comparison, in this case, tends to favor the more stable and unified image. It is also worth considering the psychological dimension of all this. Transitioning from a defined institutional role to an independent identity is not straightforward. For Harry, the monarchy was not just a job, it was his entire framework of life. Leaving it meant redefining purpose, relevance, and belonging. That process can involve trial and error, shifts in perspective, and even contradictions. From that angle, the changing narratives may reflect an ongoing search rather than deliberate inconsistency. However, public figures do not operate in a vacuum. Their words carry weight, and their actions are scrutinized. When inconsistencies appear repeatedly, they become part of the narrative. They shape how audiences interpret everything that follows. In Harry's case, the perception that he is trying to balance two identities, royal and independent, without fully committing to either, is becoming harder to ignore. The commercial aspect adds another layer. Many of Harry and Meghan's ventures, whether media deals, speaking engagements, or brand collaborations, derive value from their royal association. This creates a paradox. To maintain independence, they must distance themselves from the institution, but to sustain their brand, they must remain connected to it. Navigating that balance is complex, and it often results in mixed messaging. Looking ahead, the key question is whether Harry will eventually settle on a consistent narrative. Will he fully embrace independence and step away? From royal identity? Or will he continue to integrate elements of that identity into his public role? The answer will likely determine how his story is perceived in the long term. What is clear is that the current approach, shifting between positions without clear explanation, has limitations. Audiences are increasingly attuned to authenticity. They expect coherence, especially from figures who have shared so much of their personal journey. Without that coherence, even genuine intentions can be overshadowed by doubt. In the end, this is not just about one individual or one family. It is about the broader challenge of navigating identity in a highly visible, highly scrutinized world. Harry's experience illustrates how difficult it can be to step away from a legacy while still being defined by it. It shows how narratives, once established, are not easily reshaped. And it highlights the importance of consistency, not just in what is said, but in how it aligns with what has been said before. Whether he chooses to address these contradictions directly or continues to move forward without doing so will shape the next chapter of his public life. But one thing is certain, the conversation is not going away. What do you think? Will Harry finally compromise, or is he ready to take things even further? And how could this impact the future of the royal family? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more intense royal updates. See you in the next one.